like no matter, even though we know it's everywhere, we know cancer's there, we know all these things are happening, it still becomes a big shock. Yeah. Even for you, someone who's learned, you're an author, you've read, you've obviously counselled numerous amounts of people. Did it still come as a shock to you, and why does it still come as a shock to everybody when pain or discouragement comes, when we know it's all around us?
It's a great question. I mean, personally, it's not that pain per se was a shock, it was the type of pain.
Right, oh okay.
Do you know what I mean?
No.
So let me explain that. You know, you're alive for 5 minutes as a human being, and you know about pain. Yeah. So it's not that pain in itself is a shock, because that's just part and parcel of the life we live. It's my brother has cancer. Yeah. Right. We didn't expect that. Absolutely. Yeah. You get the call, my son's been arrested. Yeah. Well, you know, you're sacked. So it's not just pain as a principle. I don't think that shocks people. I think most sensible, wise, grounded people understand that no matter how good life gets, there are moments of difficulty. It's when you get that unexpected moment of pain, or a moment of pain that you hoped would never come. Right. Oh, that, or you believe that you were protected from. Yeah. So sometimes for Christians, for example, and that would be a world I'm very familiar with, in terms of Christianity, there can be a theology that says if you love God and you put him first and you obey him and do everything he's asked you to do, then this stuff will never come near your house. Yeah. And I call this Jobology.
Okay, so, it's a new term.
Yeah, so it's the book of Job, and the book of Job, we get the backstory because the devil has come to God and essentially said, take the hedge off Job and we'll see what he does. Yeah. And so that we know the backstory, but Job's friends don't. Yeah. So all they're seeing is the collateral. They're seeing the carnage. They're seeing his stock value has dropped. They're seeing the fact he's lost all his houses. Yeah. They're seeing the fact every member of his family's been killed with the exception of his wife. And their conclusion is, Job, what have you done?
What have you done, naturally.
Yeah. So there's a theology that's grown up, I think not always very helpful and not totally biblical at times, that says if you're good, you're blessed, and if you're bad, you're cursed. So when good people who are doing all the things, ticking the checklist of good spirituality, then cancer happens. Yeah. It can be a moment of shock to their spiritual system, and they go, well, I'm doing all this, why has this happened? Why has God let that happen?
Why me?
Yeah, I tithe, why have I lost my job? Yeah. We raised our kids, took them to church, you know, why are they doing drugs? So you're processing not just the pain per se, you're processing that against your expectation. You're processing that against even your theology as a Christian. Yeah. And of course, we're living in a culture today that has created massively high expectations for people. If you want it, you can have it. You can be anything you want to be. You can go anywhere you want to go. You can do anything you want to do. Yeah. And actually, I wrote a book a little while ago called The Freedom of Limitation. And in that I argued that's one of the worst things at times we can say to people, that actually people have to learn to live within a framework of freedom that allows them to be the best they can be within that framework without creating unhealthy expectations that they'll never reach.
The X Factor.
Absolutely.
Scenario. Oh, okay.
It is. So it's the kid on the X Factor saying, my mum thinks I'm a great singer. Yeah. And of course she does. She's your mum. Yeah. That's what mums do.
Yeah. And the pain of dealing with that then.
But then this gorgeous child standing on the stage, just stripped and brutalized by comments from the judge, or even worse, the boos of the audience, and it's a terrible. Then the pain itself is one thing, but then the pain coupled to the expectation, right? That's brutal. It's that tension of what I expected and hoped for, and what is happening. That's the tension.
Because one of the things I was looking at, I think why I was so keen about doing this interview is that, you know, even in the last week, I've seen loads of posts on Instagram and social media around mental illness. Yep. It's a big thing at the moment. I know the NHS, it's one of the largest things that they're now dealing with is mental illness. And you mentioned obviously the society that we're in. Do you feel that that's causing people to feel even more broken and discouragement? Because obviously you use the word discouragement and pain.
Yeah.
And there seems to be a lot of discouragement, younger and younger people now dealing with depression,
Yeah.
going through a lot of pain where when I was growing up it didn't seem to be that way.
Yes.
Or maybe I was just ignorant to it, I don't know.
Yes.
But do you feel that the social climate is causing a lot of more people to feel broken?
I think it's certainly a factor. You know, mental health is a deeply complex issue.
Yeah.
It can be around the personhood, the personality, the experiences of that person. I think societal pressures aren't helping us.
Yeah.
So I think the fact that there is a high expectation culture, especially in Western countries, where there is a high expectation that you should achieve certain things. You should have a house by a certain stage. You should drive a certain type of car. You should earn a certain level of income, etc., etc. Social media weirdly hasn't always helped that, because you only see the Instagram world of the successful. So, you know, you see those highlight moments that make everyone who's not having a very good moment feel even worse about themselves.
Yeah.
So then you have the tyranny of comparison, which I think social media has exasperated exponentially. Because that darkness is in all of us, the darkness of comparing yourself to your neighbour, comparing yourself to your friends. That's in every one of us, and you have to fight that. Layer on top of that social media where it's coming at me all the time, and it looks like everybody else is having a brilliant life except me.